when you have talent, you are given another chance.
Here's Chris Mannix.
Joe Mazzulla, under fire for most of last season, and I thought completely unfairly. I mean, Joe Mazzulla is, well, I mean, I thought, look, if you take a step back and look at the totality of it, you've got a guy that comes in on effectively the eve of training camp to replace a coach that was widely respected in the locker room that leaves because of a scandal. You have a brain drain on your bench, over the course of the year, whether it's Will Hardy to Damon Stoudemire to some others that left the organization. And you didn't replace any of those guys. You didn't plus up the bench and the brain power on that bench. Last year, he made a lot of mistakes, no question about it. The timeouts was very well chronicled over the course of the year. Some of the rotation decisions. He likes a lot of threes. That's for damn sure. I think they did all the right things this year, not only bringing him back without question, but plussing up the bench with Charles Lee, who is arguably the best assistant coach in the NBA. Sam Cassell, who, as you know, is like the first ex-player with gravitas they've had since Walter McCarty. Like they haven't had that guy on the bench in a long time. And I think that's going to be valuable, for this team. And Sam also is a candidate to be head coach down the line. So they've got two guys that could be head coaches in the next couple of years. So I think they did all the right things, but now the pressure's on. This is a championship contender. Joe Mazzulla, as I've said here on NBC, he is the closest thing that Brad Stevens has to a protege. He's the guy that Brad plucked out of the G League. He's the guy that Brad made sure stayed on Ime Udoka's bench. And he's the guy that Brad elevated when there were other more senior coaches ahead of him in line. All that being said, how much pressure is on Joe Mazzulla to deliver this year? And what do you think he has to deliver? Is it championship or bust? Is it finals or bust? Understand injuries have to play a role in how the season plays out. But, on paper, is it win the whole thing or Joe Mazzulla is in trouble?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think let's start with the near term, right? One of the things I've kind of asked other people, I said, what kind of rocky start would the Celtics have to get off to for them to even consider a change at that position? I don't think it's even likely, but if they're 500 at midseason, who gets in trouble there? Is it the players? Is it the coach? Whatever. And just like you said, I want to give Joe every opportunity because last year was not ideal, and chief among them is just not only does he get thrown into it on the eve of it, but he's with all of Ime's assistants who, fair or not,
some are gone too. Some are voluntarily gone,
and you can't help but look. Some of those people wanted that job, and then here's Joe who gets the nod, even though he was a behind the bench guy, and all. I think it's an awkward situation to go into. I don't think Joe ever got fully comfortable. I think Joe, like every first year coach, there's a learning process, and he didn't always handle certain situations well. He's certainly been open to admitting some of those things, the lack of rotation use and kind of fixating on the stars at some points. The timeout usage, although he has kind of doubled down that he's like, I just need to better prepare my team for those situations. So I'll be interested to see exactly what that balance is when the real games start. But yeah, he feels a little bit more comfortable here in preseason. Definitely joking a lot more and being lighthearted. He's admitted that he wasn't ready for everyone to care about his opinion because he's never been in that spot before. But yeah, you know how it is when you're a coach of a Boston team, especially the only Boston team that's relevant right now. So he's got to figure out, how to navigate that. And like you said, they've got two top assistants next to him who a lot of teams would probably desire for jobs if vacancies came open. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. For me, it just comes down to, can he put this team in the best position to succeed? Felt like at times last year they got away. In 22, I felt like they were fueled by their defensive changes at the end of that year. And last year was just the whole Mazzulla ball 3-point, and they didn't really have another option. It's been nice to see Tatum in the post. It's been nice to see Porzingis go down there to start the preseason. But will that hold up? And what happens when 3-point shots aren't falling? And how does Joe adjust? And how does he use the bench? And how does he pace everybody? Those are the questions. I think I don't think it's necessarily championship or bust. I think a lot more will fall on the players than the coach. But certainly he has to press the right buttons, or if nothing else, in the Boston media microscope, like we're gonna invariably pin stuff on him and question some of his decisions.
Yeah, most of last year, it just seemed like he was conducting some of these press conferences like with his fists clenched on the table, like, just very tense, very pensive, just not comfortable in those situations, which I can't blame him. Like, first time in that role, half the questions he's getting early on are about Ime Udoka and, what happened there. Some of the pressers I've watched and the quotes I've read, it's not exactly like it's Joe's night at the Improv, but he's a much more relaxed guy.
He's coming, like, he's had witty, like, little one-liners, busting people
way more than last year.
Way more than last year.
Yeah. I do think, Chris, like, Brad Stevens, he's leaned into Joe ball with some of these offseason moves. Like, getting Porzingis is leaning into offense over defense. I know people want to believe Porzingis can be this rim protector. Okay, well, I'll believe that when I see it over a full season.
Better than you think.
We'll
see. And as you said,
there's
it's
like
a lot
the
more drop
Porzingis
coverage
playing
now.
power forward too. Like, is he going to defend? I think people are going to put him in a lot of pick and roll situations. Then we'll see what he can do. But Porzingis is there more for offense than defense. Robert Williams was defense more than offense. Porzingis is there because he's a floor spacer. He does a lot of things offensively. Can play through him in the low post. They've leaned into Joe ball, so he's getting more of his types of guys, which should work out for him in his favor. And I think as long as he, and maybe you can tell me this better than, as I haven't been around the team as much yet, but as long as he trusts Charles Lee, as long as he trusts Sam Cassell, as long as he doesn't look at them as being kind of guys waiting for him to screw up, waiting for him to make a mistake so they can take over. And then I'm not saying they are. I don't believe for a second they are. Both those guys are good basketball coaches, and I think they're there for the right reasons. But as long as Joe believes that and leans into that and looks for help from guys that have been around the block, looks to Sam Cassell for some player-centric type of things, looks to Charles Lee, who has championship experience on that Milwaukee staff. Like, as long as he does those things, I think he's going to grow as a coach. I really believe, and I tweeted this, I think by midseason, we're talking about Joe Mazzulla. I don't know if he's going to win coach of the year, because it's hard to win coach of the year when you have a loaded roster. It usually goes to like the Mark Dagnalds of the world, who have, the 10 seed that goes to 5 seed or whatever it may be. But I think we're talking about Joe Mazzulla as a asset to this team and not the liability some people thought he was a year ago. I think he's going to grow organically. I think he's going to grow with the guys on his bench. I think he's going to grow just having another year, where he's not entering a job that's surrounded in controversy, and he's not kind of standing up there taking shrapnel after every tough defeat. It's still going to be tough for him after in tough stretches, but I do think he's going to have, I think he, by All-Star break, the conversation about Joe Mazzulla is going to be how he is a positive for this team and not a negative. And that would be an upgrade, I think, from what some people thought last year.
I just think you have to be more comfortable. I think he was pretty organically himself last year, but I just think the situation just made little things more difficult than they probably needed to be. And I think he's just better equipped for it. Like you said, he'll have a whole offseason here to put in like what he believes in, and the guys trust him. Like, Tatum really believes in him. Tatum is all on board. Like, that, having buy-in from your best player is huge. And so if that trickles down, and I do think, it was phrased at least that this decision to bring in Sam Cassell and Charles Lee was Joe's decision. I'm sure he was as aware of it as anybody, that they needed to strengthen that staff and get guys that he could lean on. And you don't go get them if you're not going to use their expertise. And so I kind of from afar, just watching after practices, watch Sam Cassell go up to him and have chats about like, okay, what should I do here with Jayson, and like, what do you want us working on? And I think there's an open dialogue there, and both those guys are good enough assistants and they know their time's coming as head coaches. And if the Celtics are successful, everyone's gonna benefit from that. So I think they're all in. It's great that you have Charles Lee when you add a Jrue Holiday to the roster. It's great when you have Paul Pierce wanting to like work out with Jayson Tatum because Sam Cassell connected them in the off season. And so I think they're just better set up for success this season. And I think Joe will have every chance to sort of spread his wings a little bit more, in much the same way that we keep saying like Jayson and Jaylen without Marcus there in his voice, like, okay, well, Joe, this is what you got everything you wanted now. And you get whatever, make it your mark on it. and it won't be on the fly and everything. So yeah, I'm eager. Put it my long-winded way of saying I'm eager to see how he spreads his wings here, and if he just looks a little bit more comfortable in all regards this season.
Yeah, I like how they've turned the team into kind of a high school football program, like welcoming back all the old players, then have them in the gym, whether it's Paul Pierce, Satch Sanders, whoever you want to bring in.
You can walk right in there now.
Apparently it's open doors for anybody that used to wear
former employee, like everything. Like you can just like stomp right in. Paul Pierce was like working out on machines. I mean, the 2008 team took over and just had a 3-point contest in the middle of a freaking practice.
Yeah. Sam Cassell, Eddie House doing TV work now. So it's going to be interesting this year. That's for sure. All right. Read Chris Forsberg's stuff on NBCSportsBoston.com. Watch him on NBC Sports Boston all season long for his Celtic stuff. Chris, good to catch up with you, man. I appreciate you joining me here on the show.
Thank you, Mannix.
Well, we're back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away with an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game this September. So football is more fun when you're in on the action. So download the app now and sign up with the code Mannix. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL with code Mannix. The crown is yours.